Hello, everyone, and welcome to the iDiet Cooking Demo with Dr. Roberts. My name is Jim O'Toole. I'm one of the senior group leaders as well as dietitians here at iDiet. And joining me, of course, is Dr. Roberts.
We can see you.
Awesome. So Dr. Roberts, what are we cooking today?
Oh, we're cooking some really simple things. We're cooking easy pizza. We're cooking bread rolls, which sounds difficult, but it's actually really easy. And then we're cooking a chocolate pudding.
Oh my God, that sounds delicious.
It's good. You know, and we've only got one camera today because it didn't work too well with two cameras. But I'm so glad you can't see the rest of my kitchen, right? My kitchen does not look good today.
Awesome.
In the last 2 weeks, I've been to England to see my sick dad. I've been to Guinea-Bissau in West Africa to visit our malnutrition research site. And I've been to Washington to talk to the Department of Defense about iDiet in military families, which is a project we're doing. And while I was away, the kitchen turned into a big mess. So we cleaned this nice little place here.
Wow, but that's great to hear about this stuff with iDiet.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things going on.
And everyone joining us is actually people who are in the program. So this is our iDiet family right here.
Okay, well maybe some of our military families too. That's great, and they're doing really awesomely.
Awesome.
So
actually, if you don't mind, just quick introduction. So agenda, what we're going to talk about today. We'll start with the 3 recipes that Dr. Roberts will be cooking up. After that, we're going to introduce a few of the iDiet legal finds that we found in some local supermarkets. And then we're going to end, like we always do, with 5 questions with Dr. Roberts. A couple housekeeping notes first.
Shoot.
We have a cat running around the
Now we have to admit I've got a cat too. Okay.
So a couple of housekeeping. So first and foremost, we have a group leader on the message board, Lee, and he'll be able to answer any of the questions you might have. Or if we can always write the questions down and answer them tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And last and certainly not least, if you need to leave early for some reason, I'm going to post the recording of this cooking demo as well as share the recipes tomorrow via email, so you won't miss a thing. So, okay. Dr. Roberts, what are we cooking first?
Okay, we're going to start with pizza. And while I'm starting this, Jim, could you get rid of the cat?
Sure.
Because the cat's proving to be very friendly tonight. So easy. I'm sorry, this should not have happened. Okay, we got rid of 2 of the cats. They're upstairs in the bedroom. We thought the 3rd one would be well behaved. So easy pizza starts with either a pita bread or something like an English muffin. And I've been trying it recently with the Thomas light English muffins, the 100-calorie ones, and it's so awesome. So I thought I would do that today. And this is something, you don't need to cook to do this. You put your muffin in a toaster and you toast it. And I'm going to do 2, I think. And then you can go one of 2 different ways. I think a great way to do this, if you have a broiler, is to turn the broiler up to high. And the tomato sauce is cold, and you've got the cheese and any toppings, and you just construct it and you put it in the broiler. If you want to do an even easier way, you toast your muffins and you heat your tomato sauce. And then you just put the hot tomato sauce on and the cheese on top, and it melts that way. That's also very good. It's a bit better in the broiler, but it's pizza, you know. We all love pizza.
It sounds like a pretty good quick snack, too, if you wanted to do it in the microwave.
Yeah, totally.
Also, Dr. Roberts, those Thomas's Light 100 are actually probably the most recommended ones that our community uses. So that's awesome to hear they use this once.
Yeah, they have a really good flavor. And if you look at the nutrition facts, in 100 calories, there's 8 grams of fiber and 5 grams of protein.
I like that fiber.
Yeah, so they're actually even more iDiet legal than something like the Fiber One muffins, which are also 100 calories, and they taste good too, but they're only just legal. So these ones win the prize for legality. All right, so we have our muffins, our toasted muffins here, and I'm going to put the other 2 in so that we have 2 more. And then this is all you do. Tomato sauce on top. I basically like any tomato sauce. I mean, I just go into the supermarket and I look at the ones which are fairly low in calories. So that would be maybe about 50 calories per serving. This particular one is Classico and it was 45 grams per serving, and it tastes great. So you put your tomato sauce on like that. You just spoon it on, and then you sprinkle the cheese, and it's as simple as that. That's if you're not adding any topping. So this is like plain cheese pizza. What I also did earlier is I sauteed some mushrooms, because mushroom pizza is very good, and it also adds to bulk. And so to saute mushrooms, you can just use a tiny bit of spray oil in a non-stick pan and turn it on high and put the mushrooms in. You don't need any butter or, any significant amount of oil. And they brown beautifully, and you can use them for mushroom pizza. So
it's funny, I can say a lot of people in our groups put mushrooms on everything. It's that umami flavor, that meaty flavor with very little calories. It's one of the favorite vegetables.
Yeah, I love mushrooms. If you've ever read The Hobbit, the Hobbit, or the Lord of the Rings series, and you'll know that mushrooms are the favorite food of Hobbit. So if you want to make a mushroom pizza, you just sprinkle some mushrooms on after the tomato sauce, as many as you like, and then you put your cheese on top like so, and voila, you have pizza in what, 2 minutes? I wasn't counting, but then so this would go in the griddle, and that's really nice. Or I would have used hot tomato sauce. And I made some earlier in which I hope you can see these. This one is mushroom. This one, I found some prosciutto in the fridge, and I didn't have any pepperoni, which would also have been nice, cut into small pieces. But I put that on, and these two are plain cheese. And the serving size is really generous. So for somebody on a 1,200 calorie menu, 3 of those pieces with maybe some salad on the side would be a meal. If you're on one of the bigger menus, you would have the 4th. So I think that's a really nice filling meal for anyone.
Absolutely.
And if you have pizza craving, this is a healthy, satisfying way to go.
So it's quick, and also it's got a lot of fiber, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And did you say that you can go unlimited as far as mushrooms? You can just kind of top them on there?
As many as you can pile on. As many
delicious.
as you want. So which would be your choice?
So I would pick the mushrooms one, because I am personally, I put mushrooms on everything. So I like the idea. I like it's the umami. It's that 5th taste bud. It's kind of the meaty flavor without all the calories. So I would definitely go with the mushroom flavored one myself.
And the secret is browning them. I mean, turning the heat up as high as you can so that you brown the mushrooms. You really bring the flavor out. That's great.
That's good too.
Well, so when we finish, you can have the mushroom one.
Absolutely. Cool.
So now let's put this away and move on to bread rolls.
So if anyone was wondering, this is the Thomas English muffin 100-calorie multigrain that Dr. Roberts is using. I'm not on the camera right now, but there it is.
Okay, so now bread rolls. We did this actually because we got some requests for some extra bread, and I was so pleased about that because I love making bread. And it feels a bit obsessive compulsive making your own bread, but I've got it down so that it's a really easy way to make homemade bread. You probably don't make bread. Do you make bread?
No.
Okay, well maybe we'll convert you as well. But so the thing about bread making is it can be a great substitute for making cookies and cakes. I mean, women especially, I think, me anyway, sometimes you want to get in the kitchen and do some baking. Ooh. And if you bake cookies and if you bake cakes frequently, you eat them. And then, then it messes up your diet. But if you make one of these bread recipes, it helps your diet rather than messes it up. And it gives the same feeling of, being able to get in the kitchen and bake. And it's really popular with family members. So you're sending out all the recipes, right?
Yes. Tomorrow morning, I will send all 3 of these recipes around so you guys can try it yourself.
Okay. So this recipe has, the most complicated thing actually is, it's finding the ingredients in the supermarket. It has whole wheat flour, And I use this stone ground flour because the particles are a bit bigger, and that's good for glycemic control. Some white flour, because we're making this taste good too. Then some gluten. Gluten is just the protein in wheat. I'm adding extra gluten because all of this whole wheat flour and the wheat bran that's going to follow means that if you just had flour, it wouldn't rise very well. The gluten makes sure that it rises and it has enough elasticity that it feels like bread. So there's the gluten. And the recipes that Jim's going to send give all the amounts. This is wheat bran, which again, today you can find in almost any supermarket. I think I found this in Whole Foods, but I know the local Market Basket and the local Star also carry that.
I found that in Ocean State Job Lot too. It's the
okay. This is a bit of salt, and then some dried yeast, a generous teaspoon. Okay, and then so those are all the dry ingredients, and we mix those together just so that they're all one unit, not separate things. And then, so prior to the session, I cooked up the wheat berries. And again, you can get wheat berries these days in any supermarket. You can also get them on Amazon if your supermarket happens to not be one of the ones that do. But you just boil them in water for about 40 minutes until they're cooked. If you want to reduce the cooking time, one thing you can do is heat them to boiling point the night before and turn the heat off. And then the next day, you only need to cook them for 5 or 10 minutes. And you just cook them in plenty of water and drain that. So the wheat berries are a great addition because they're quite hard to digest. And I think that adds to the fact that this bread keeps you hunger-free for hours and hours, because the wheat berries really do take some time to digest. That means that the carbohydrate and the protein in the wheat berries gets into your bloodstream more slowly than the other ingredients.
So definitely you don't want to skip the wheat berries. That sounds like it's a staple in this particular bread.
Definitely. So that's all the mixing I've done. And then I measured out the water. So now the recipe that Jim's going to give you has a teaspoon of molasses in it. And I didn't have any molasses today, so I just left it out. But I'm sure it's going to be fine because I've made it without molasses before. It's good with, but it's also very good with that. So I measured the water and then just stirring it up so that it's completely mixed. This is enough for one loaf or about 10 bread rolls. It doubles very easily. You just need a bigger bowl. So that's completely mixed, and that's all you have to do. It's really easy. And I made a batch of bread dough earlier so that it would be risen in preparation for making the rolls. And this was rising. You rise bread dough until it's about double in size. So I put warm water in to speed this up. So this has been rising about 1 hour. I think if you started with cold water, it would be about 2 hours.
Wow. You can actually see it. I mean, I know that you guys wouldn't be able to see this at home, but you can tell it's already beginning to rise.
So we bring them over for some, see if
absolutely.
We can do a comparison.
A show and tell.
This is the same bread dough.
So this is 2 hours?
It was about 1 hour with warm water.
So as you can see, in 1 hour, the one in my right hand, you can see the volume is about twice as much as the one that Dr. Roberts just made about a minute ago.
All right, and so I'm going to make bread rolls with this, and so I've got my bread dough here, and actually this is why I'm wearing an apron tonight, because this is a bit messy. So if we just, I'm going to make about, let's say, 10 bread rolls. So I'm going to cut this into 10 pieces. And then I'm just going to shape each piece very briefly into a round. You don't have to be very careful about that. We're just getting it into approximately the right shape. And the dough is quite soft, but that's okay. And you find that this bread keeps amazingly well. I mean, if you make these rolls today, they will still taste really fresh in 4 or 5 days' time, or you can freeze them and they'll be good for, months actually. So I pretty much make enough bread that these days that I don't buy any bread except things like the English muffins for pizza. And this is what my whole family eats.
So what about, would you say this is your favorite, or would you say the iDiet soda bread's your favorite?
I like them both. I use them for different purposes. I love the soda bread sometimes, but I would say that the rolls are probably my standby. And these rolls, actually, I was passing through Munich airport in Germany, and you wouldn't expect to get any inspiration on gourmet food from Munich airport, but that's where this came from. That there was the most amazing bread, and when I got back, I thought, surely we can copy that and make it iDiet legal. So I have my rounds here, and then I'm going to dip the top in flax seeds, and I'm going to dip the bottom in sunflower seeds. And this is partly for decoration, but it's also partly because the sunflower seeds and the flax seeds are really nutritious. And you can also get those in all the supermarkets around here anyway. And you can also buy them on the web. Sometimes if the bread dough is not quite as soft as this, I dip them in water in order to make the seeds stick. But this is nice and soft, so I don't need that. I don't need that container of water. So as a non-baker, Jim, do you find this intimidating, or does this make you think you could do it?
It doesn't look intimidating. I do get how people, they say that, baking it's therapeutic. It's like meditation for them. My dad loves to make bread.
Oh, so really?
I get it, yeah. I mean, it's not intimidating, especially, because it looks like, we've been doing this for about 5 minutes and they're close to being done. But I get it. I get how people say it's very therapeutic and meditative to be baking.
And for me, I think, when, if you think about giving up baking cookies and cakes,
substitute, yeah.
What's going to take the place of that? And to think that you can get in the kitchen and do baking, and your family are going to love eating this. Everybody's going to be clustered around when
it'll be everyone's favorite if you bake these for everyone. Yeah.
I mean, when I make this, sometimes I make it into rolls like this. Sometimes I just mix the flax seeds and the sunflower seeds in with the bread mixture, and I make a loaf. And the bread hasn't been out of the oven 30 seconds, and I have people cutting slices because then they eat it hot. It's really good.
You need to watch your fingers.
So this is what you have now, and you cover this and you let it rise about 50% again, and then it bakes for about 30 minutes, and you have bread rolls. And I made some earlier.
Ooh.
And they look so good, don't they?
Wow, they really do rise up so much compared to the ones you just made.
They do rise up. They rise up quite a lot. And so one of these makes a really substantial breakfast. I had one of these this morning with peanut butter and jelly, and it was really good. But sometimes I have hazelnut butter. It depends. Any spread that you like, they're good with.
Absolutely. I did notice that for anyone that has the book, you put these rolls in the breakfast section versus some of the other breads you put in the sandwich section. So I thought that was an interesting note that this is one of your staple breakfasts, not a snack or something you'd use for dinner.
Right. I mean, I think they're very good for breakfast or for lunch. You know, if you cut this and you put some turkey and tomato and lettuce and mustard inside, it's really good for that too.
Could you dip it in a soup? That's where I like rolls personally, dip it in soup. So how does it work for that? Pretty good?
Right, so it's really good with soup.
Dr. Roberts, could I show, so one of the main questions that we always get is, you know, which ingredients? Could I show a couple of the ingredients?
Please, go ahead.
Okay, so Dr. Roberts started with the whole wheat flour. And I mean, really, it's the generic Bob's Red Mill. Actually, everything's Bob's Red Mill. So there's the Bob's Red Mill whole wheat flour that Dr. Roberts talked about. Probably the two items that you might not have heard about before would have been the wheat bran and the gluten. So here's again, Bob's Red Mill wheat bran. Comes in a larger package. You can find this market basket. Different supermarkets will blah, blah. And then here's the one that I'm sure a couple people are like, oh, I've never heard of that before. It's gluten. You can tell it's 75 to 80% gluten. So this is the protein, the structure. Dr. Roberts, that is for protein structure, which you talked about earlier.
You know, one thing about gluten is you do not need to be scared of gluten unless you have a gluten intolerance or unless you have celiac disease. Something like 4 or 5% of Americans are sensitive to gluten, in which case you should avoid it. But for the rest of it, it's perfectly healthy food. It's wheat protein. There's lots of good things in wheat, and it's nothing to be scared about.
Awesome.
Okay, and there's nothing to be scared about with chocolate pudding either. So,
this is the one that a lot of people have been requesting, because I've had some people say it's the best dessert ever. I've had some people say, I don't know if I made that right, it didn't come out. So this is probably the most requested recipe that we've had ever in these cooking shows.
Okay. Well, it's another really easy recipe. And, you know, when I was coming back from travel, this is one of the things that I was looking forward to, which I didn't have in my travel. I've got two kinds of, how do you pronounce this, ricotta or ricotta?
Ricotta is what I say.
Okay, thank you. You know, I slip up sometimes. This is not an English product. But I've got two kinds of ricotta here. I've got the fat-free version and I've got the part skim version. So I'm going to show you what to do with both of those. So it starts with 2 teaspoons of pure cocoa. And I've tried different kinds of cocoa. This one, which I got in Whole Foods, is really good. But, you know, pretty much any cocoa is really good. So that's 2 teaspoons of cocoa. And then I'm going to put in 1/4 cup of ricotta. And I'm going to put in 2 packages of sweetener.
Now, can that be any sweetener, or is there any sweetener you'd like to use for this?
Any sweetener that you like to use,
okay,
you can use that. But the equivalent of 2 packets, which is the equivalent of 4 teaspoons of sugar. And you simply mix it together. Have you had this pudding?
I have not. I'm excited.
So then we're going to use you as a guinea pig.
All right. My favorite job.
You're such a good guinea pig.
Buy it a nickel every time.
So you can put, you know, a little squirt of cream on top. That makes it really good too. Wish for a taste?
Absolutely. It's so, yeah, to me, I always think of pudding coming out of the fridge. So this is like a new frontier for me.
That's good.
It's very good. It's actually extremely good. In fact, it's better than the one that comes out of the fridge.
Yeah, it is. It's better than the one that comes out. Yeah. So I guess some people are going to say, oh, fat-free ricotta. No thanks, not my thing. And so I've also got a low-fat version here. Now, the low-fat version, of course, has more calories. So instead of using 1/4 cup, I'm going to use 3/4 of that. So like 3 tablespoons worth.
and we get asked this all the time. Some people say they like the quantity, they like the idea of having more of it, and then other people say, no, it's about the quality. I'd rather it have a little more taste to it.
Right. And our 2 teaspoons of cocoa again. And some sweetener. So this time, because this is going to be a little stiffer, I'm actually using a liquid sweetener. And the one I've got here is allulose. All you lose. It's a sweetener that I only just discovered, and it's actually awesome. I think it tastes more natural than any of the artificial sweeteners or trivia for that matter. So I'm going to put a little bit of that on to make it a bit more liquid than it would otherwise be with a powdered sweetener. And then, so now because the low-fat ricotta has more calories and more fat, it's not quite iDiet legal. So if you go this route, I would suggest just sprinkling a bit of Fiber One on the top.
Absolutely.
to make it legal too.
Absolutely.
You can be our taste tester and tell us how it compares.
Yeah, I can actually try to give a evaluation which one tastes better. So here's the low-fat one. And you know something's good because you go back to take like a second bite. You know what? I like the fat-free one a lot more.
Really?
Yeah, much more actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I like the taste of this. It tastes a little sweeter. Maybe it was the amount of equal. But I don't know. To me, it's when I think of desserts, I think sweet. I don't really, think of a fat. So I actually like the fat-free one with the equal a little bit more.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so that wins. So you can go either way. Both
got a request. I apologize. So somebody was wondering, just to repeat the name. So it's called All You Lose Natural Rare Sugar Sweetener. And we're looking at the 1 teaspoon, 1.75 calories. So that's called All You Lose Natural Rare Sugar Sweetener. And what did you say you bought it at?
What did I say, what?
Where did you buy it?
I bought this on the web, actually. I bought this on Amazon. It's possible it's in my local supermarket, but I didn't look for it there. One thing, because this tastes so natural, I immediately started thinking, well, I could go back and try making some things which I've failed to do a good conversion of yet. I mean, I must have made, oh goodness, probably 15 batches of cornbread. And I kept trying another one. But with artificial sweeteners, it just didn't taste like cornbread. And I'm thinking, well, this one tastes, so natural in terms of its sweetness that I can go back and have another go with cornbread, and maybe cookies too. See if some of the more challenging things which I haven't been able to do what I felt was a good job of with other sweeteners would work with this.
Well, if you need a taste tester, please let me know.
Yeah, next time if we can do it, we'll demo them.
Absolutely.
All right.
So I believe that's it for the recipes. So next, I guess we can show some of the iDiet legal finds. So we've been getting a lot of requests lately about, because a lot of people that are actually at this demo, they've been in the program for years at this point. So they like the idea of what's new on the market. So everything I'm going to show today is actually something that you guys actually found and sent to me. I apologize. The first one, anyone that's ever been in a group with me has already seen. But for anyone that hasn't, this is actually my staple breakfast. I have this pretty much every morning. And actually, I've never shown Dr. Roberts. So this is actually, you're really seeing this unfold. So these are called Kodiak cake. It's a pancake mix, a flapjack mix. What I like a lot about these is it's easy. All you need is 1 scoop of the pancake mix plus 1 scoop of water. I actually add about 1/4 of a cup of corn bran as well, just because it's iDiet legal by itself, but it's kind of heavy on the protein, not so much on the fiber. So I use the corn to fortify it a little bit. Plus, it's about $5 for the box, so it can go a little bit further if you mix a little bit of something else in it. So yeah, breakfast item here. You can get either chocolate flavor or regular, and you can actually get this. It's pretty well. It's pretty commercially available throughout the country. I actually get it at Target, so there's always a Target.
So it doesn't need any egg or anything like that.
You can, and I have, and it tastes better in my opinion if you add egg. And I actually use. I wasn't going to show this, but well, I'm not going to actually add it. But if you use milk, maybe for example, Fairlife milk is another one a lot of people say. It does taste better, but for me, I'm busy. I like the idea of just a scoop of this, a scoop of water, one dish to clean up, and we can go with butter. Yeah. That's the appeal of this, in my opinion.
I'm going to get some of that, and I'm thinking, how would I use this? I'd probably add an egg white or something like that.
Totally, yeah. And there is ingredients in the back that you can, one egg white is actually, they have a couple different recipes in the back that you can use.
Oh, that's a great find.
Very cool. I forget who found that exactly, but I have a feeling they're at this cooking demo. I apologize, but thank you for that find.
What else do you have over there?
Okay, so let's move to lunch. So I think this is a fairly new product, but we've had a lot of people ask me about these new Yes soups. Well, yes. So I brought a couple today that are iDiet legal, and I had them, one for lunch yesterday, one for today. But I've actually had this one in particular, the lentils with vegetables. This one's something that I've had a few times before. It's anyone that's in advance, you have your emergency meals, you have 4 or 5 different things that you just kind of have in your cupboard. They're not something that you have every day, but you'll go toward. So the hearty lentils with vegetable soups, we're looking at 120 calories. So it's the upper end, one of the hearty soups if you're looking at one of the easy plans. And it's got 8 grams of protein and 4 grams of fiber. So that 4 is moderately high right there.
And where did you get?
So this can be, again, Target, but these ones you can get, I've seen them for anyone in New England. Market Basket has them. These ones are pretty regularly available.
Wow.
I like this
They're great.
one. Yeah, totally. The chicken noodle soup, it's more watery versus this one, which is a little more hearty. Chicken noodle soup also has 100 calories, 8 grams of protein, 2 grams of fiber. So it's exactly what you would think when you open it. This one's a little more hearty, but a little more calories versus this one, which is pretty traditional chicken noodle soup. But the taste is fine. It's good stuff, and it's good to keep around for like emergency plans.
And this is a Campbell's brand, right?
Yes, it's Campbell's, yeah, which is interesting because anyone that's really likes looking at iDiet legal finds, Progresso has a good amount, but Campbell's didn't have that many. So it was good that they have
That's a new line for them. Interesting. I think a lot of the manufacturers are working out that people are really starting to think about healthy food, and they're getting into the market, which is great. And the more we buy the healthy products and we shun the unhealthy ones, the more we're going to train them to give us the right thing.
Totally. Voting with your fork. I couldn't agree more. So thank you for everyone for finding these ones. So this is, again, the Yes. There's a couple that are iDiet legal, but this is the hearty lentil with vegetable soup, which is kind of the one my favorite. And then the chicken noodle soup. And there's another thing I love about these, which is going to be like a little bit like, hey, whatever, Jim. But I like the fact that they're a pop top. It's like it's an easy pack. You can, if you, for example, don't have a Friday lunch, you can pack one of these. It's a whole cup, so it takes a little while to eat. It'll fill you up. So it's a nice find for like an emergency food.
I wish everybody did pop tops. I mean, they're so much easier, even if you're in your kitchen, just to kind of open the thing rather than get the can opener.
Absolutely, it's a lot more effort to use that.
Okay, what else do you have?
Okay, so a lot of people have been talking about this. Actually, a lot of group leaders. I think it was Susan Zucker who introduced me to these. So these are, this is Smart One. So again, very well-known brand, just like the Campbell's. These are these smart meals that you're starting to see pop up all over the place. What I have here is I have the Mexican-style chicken bowl, and then Dr. Roberts has, it looks like, the chicken with spinach, chicken with spinach fettuccine. So I've had both of these a few times. I've only had this one. I actually tried this one earlier today because a couple people mentioned it's a staple. My issue with these, they're great to have for emergency meals. portions seem a little small versus like a whole cup of soup. So that's my one issue. But I'm a big fan of the Mexican style chicken bowl. Again, keep a few of these in your freezer. Again, so Smart Made by Smart One, Mexican style chicken bowl. You can keep a few of these in your freezer, maybe for like a Friday or something like that, when you run out of food and you need something quick.
I mean, the other thing you can do, I mean, I noticed for this one at least, I mean, it's good for protein. It's a bit light on fiber. And if you say the proteins, the portion is a bit small, I mean, what you could do is have one of these and then have a bowl of fiber cereal for dessert. And this is only 220 calories. So you could have this plus a bowl of fiber, and that's a good meal. And it would give you everything.
Absolutely. That's a great point. In fact, so what Dr. Roberts is saying is that some of these are low in fiber. This one's got 6 grams, so it's a little better. But the chicken with fettuccine is only at 2.
Yeah.
But like Dr. Roberts was mentioning, you got 30 extra calories. You can do a quarter cup of high fiber cereal, and then your fiber will be right where you want it to be.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think these frozen meals are useful. I mean, most people have used them occasionally when they get into a pinch. And so, the thing is finding good ones that are iDiet legal. And then, and things that you like that taste good.
Absolutely. So one more item, again, you guys have found this and sent it to me and asked about them. So these are the flat outs. There are a couple of these new flatbreads coming around. Let's see, the flat out was one. There's another one called Tomorrow's that a lot of people have been asking about. But I mean, these things are a great source of fiber. 90 calories per one, so cutting in half. Oh yeah, absolutely. So cutting in half, you're good for any time an easy plan calls for a 50-calorie slice of bread.
This is crazily iDiet legal. I mean, this is like fiber one. I mean, in 90 calories, there's 8 grams of fiber and 9 grams of protein. I mean, that's crazy. And actually, it's really good.
Absolutely.
So where do you get this?
So everything I bought today actually was from Target, every single item. But I've seen this at Stop and Shop for anyone local, Market Basket as well. But it is nationally available at Target.
You're a great advertisement for Target.
I know, they should pay me. I should get some money for this.
But we're not endorsing anything.
No, not at all.
That actually tastes really good. And I'm going to bake some of those off you before you leave tonight.
Totally. You can actually, absolutely. I mean, sandwiches, you can actually, you can make pizza on this. It's a little more difficult, but it is possible. So there's a couple different things you can do with this.
One thing that some of these wraps have is they're a bit fragile. So I don't know whether this one is true, but
it is. It totally is.
So you have to wrap it up. But if you heat them, if you want them warm, for example, they can disintegrate. So I guess that would be an interesting thing to know about this one, if it's resilient enough for something that's warm.
Interesting. So if anyone wants to give that, even I'm thinking you could probably make chips with these. I don't know, maybe. If anyone wants to be adventurous and see if these work for chips, that'd be a nice thing to find.
I'm going to try that. Well, these are great finds. And, 100,000 new food products come onto the market every year. So it's impossible for us as a small company to keep track of all of those. And it's really great when you send in the suggestions, because then we can share them. Sure. What we need, in fact, is a wiki so that people can enter these and then you can go and search for them.
Absolutely.
As soon as we can upgrade our website.
Yeah. Okay. So that's all I had for items. I've got plenty more of you guys if anyone wants to shoot me an email. But so let's see. We did the recipes to start off with, which I will be sending everyone tomorrow morning for anyone who wants to try it this weekend. We also did the iDiet Legal Finds, where I gave a really nice plug to Target. So if anyone out there can hook me up with a sponsorship, I'd appreciate that. So the last segment we have, as always, is going to be the 5 questions with Dr. Roberts. And these are really going to be around convenience foods, breakfast, and, of course, the fact that it's spring. Changing weather might mean changing food. So let's start with question number 1. So you actually already touched upon this earlier, but the iDiet probably has more of those comfort foods than any other program out there, foods that would very much be forbidden on other programs. Can you talk a little bit about why it's important to include these types of forbidden foods when a lot of other programs say you need to stay away?
So, if you go back to the science of weight control, people like foods that are familiar with them. And many people like sandwiches and macaroni and cheese and pizza. They like those things, and they miss them when they're told to eat wheat berries and salads and stuff. So at the beginning of this program, I put quite a lot of work into reformulating the recipes so that people could have the tastes that they're familiar with, but a composition that's better for reducing hunger and reducing cravings. And it's just because I think it works better when you give people the foods that they enjoy.
Absolutely. I think about the iDiet chocolate or the cereal dessert as well as the sundae every time you hear that, because ice cream by itself is probably not too good, but if you have a little bit of high fiber cereal with that, it becomes easier to stay on a plan, and it's good for weight control.
Yeah, it's not just about keeping people happy. It's really about the science of weight control. And people have, all kinds of circuitry in their brain which has been trained up over years to enjoy pizza and enjoy chocolate. And if we just take those things away, they're going to feel deprived. And that deprivation is going to backfire in non-adherence and falling off the wagon and stuff like that. So our whole goal is to give all our program members a program that they can do. And that's, in my mind, that starts with food. I love to eat. I love to enjoy food. And I think we should all be able to enjoy food and lose weight at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's compliance. If you miss all these favorite foods, you're not going to stick to a weight loss plan. And I think that last quote you said was really good. You shouldn't feel deprived. And I know you said this before. You shouldn't feel deprived when you're losing weight, which is something that not a lot of other programs would say. But, all right, awesome. So question number 2, staying with the topic of convenient foods. We have people coming into this program that are very busy. They like frozen foods like we talked about today because of the convenience factor, but I've heard in the past that they might be unhealthy. So they're not clear if it's healthy or not. What would you say? Can you talk a little bit about if frozen meals are good for weight control?
I think, that's a hard question to answer simply. Fresh fruits and vegetables and whole grains are all important for long-term health. And, if you permanently live on frozen meals, I think you're missing out on some of those things. So I do think that having some fresh things on top of frozen food is important. Just the fact that they're frozen doesn't reduce their nutritional content. If you look at the composition of frozen peas versus fresh peas and frozen beans versus fresh beans, there's no difference. And if anything, the frozen ones have the edge because they've been frozen often at the source, at the field. They haven't, spent 2 weeks on the train from California to get here. So there's nothing wrong with freezing. But when you have a box meal, it may not have as much fruit and vegetables as you might put on your plate if you started with fresh. So I think they're fine. But I would make sure that the total amount of whole grains and fresh fruits and vegetables is kept up by, buying a bag of apples on the side or a bag of oranges and, extra things like that.
Awesome. Very cool. So next question. A lot of people come into our program maybe skipping breakfast or never eating after a certain time or never snacking. So a couple questions on snacking. My first one is, do you have a favorite snack that you always eat?
A favorite snack that I always eat? Oh my. I have a few. Apples, cheese sticks, apples with a few peanuts. I would guess those are probably the things I eat most. Occasionally I make, we did a chocolate croissant here the other week. Occasionally when I'm home and it's the weekend, I do a chocolate croissant. And I enjoy that very much too.
I'll never forget the first day I was here, we had a meeting. And all of a sudden, it was like 10 o'clock. And like the minute 10 o'clock, everyone around the room just grabbed cheese sticks. Everyone had 2 cheese sticks at exactly 10 o'clock. It's one of my favorite memories of iDiet, actually.
They're really convenient. And, they must be almost sterile. I mean, I have to admit,
Never in the fridge.
I took a handful of cheese sticks to Washington with me when I went to the military meeting this week. And they sat in my bag for 2 days, and they were perfectly fine. I ate them on the plane coming back, and there was nothing wrong with them.
Awesome. So let's continue on that same general topic. So I mentioned earlier that a lot of people do come into a program, and the evenly paced meals is something that's new. They're used to skipping breakfast. They're never eating after 7. or as we just talked about, never snacking. Can you talk a little bit about why those type of habits, skipping breakfast, not snacking, not eating after a certain time, can you talk a little bit about why those habits might not be best for weight loss?
Well, we prioritize hunger control in iDiet a lot, and I think that's why we get better results than other programs, is that we help you keep your hunger down. And when you're not hungry, except appropriately before meals, you can learn the other kinds of skills and habits that you need to learn for lifelong weight control. And if you skip breakfast, I think the typical pattern is you skip breakfast, you get really hungry for lunch, and then you go and get a takeout. It kind of sets up a negative cycle. So we try and keep hunger down in a number of ways. One is the composition of the food, but also by pacing the calories nice and evenly across the day. That's also helpful for hunger control. And I think it really does work. A lot of people, they get on the program and they say, oh, I'm not a snacker. But 2 days into the program, they think they get really hungry when they don't have the snack. Because we can only do so much with food composition. Food composition does help hunger, and we do what we can. But the pacing of the calories is another thing that really helps. So we're trying to combine both of those benefits together.
Totally. And then, so earlier you mentioned that, when you're on a weight loss program, not feeling deprived. Another thing I've heard you say before is you shouldn't be hungry on a weight loss program. And I'll always remember that we had, you did that study where you actually, people on our program reported decreased hunger while losing weight, which I think it's like so eye-opening to so many people that they shouldn't be hungry when losing weight.
Right. Yeah, people were less hungry losing weight than they previously were when they were gaining weight, which is really pretty amazing. And, it's not that you should never feel hungry, but you should feel appropriately hungry before meals. You shouldn't be walking around kind of thinking you're going to tough it out and you're hungry for half the day. That would be really bad.
So we have our last question on the cooking demo. And as always, it's a little bit of a silly question. So for anyone that has been here since our first cooking demo, you mentioned that you love soups in the winter, that you weren't eating many salads in the winter. But now the weather is getting a little nicer. Do you change your food choices because of that? And what are a couple of your favorite recipes to make in the spring?
Ooh, so Boston, it's only just spring here. I mean, this week's been really nice, but I was away, so I missed it.
Totally.
I have to admit, I'm still on soup. I had soup today. I've got a whole bunch of frozen containers in my fridge of soup. I'm probably going to eat those up. When it gets hot, I'm going to turn over to gazpacho, which I love and which is a beautiful hot weather soup. Between now and then, I think grilled asparagus is delicious right now. It's really fresh and juicy and beautiful. So I'm going to make quite a lot of grilled asparagus this weekend, and probably on Tuesday I'm going to have some leftovers, and I'll take that to work with maybe some sliced chicken or something like that. But the vegetables are going to be wonderful right now. The fresh lettuce is going to be here any minute now. The strawberries are going to be here soon. So it's really thinking about how to use the fresh produce, which is going to get me excited about cooking for the next couple of months.
Awesome. So good to end on. It's a great time to invest in some produce. It's a good time, a lot of fresh produce out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's all we have. So just to recap, I will be sending around the recipes as well as a copy of this cooking demo tomorrow for anyone who wants to try to make some of these recipes over the weekend. But continue sending us these items, because we're still working through that original list. But anytime you want to see Dr. Roberts make something else, please send us a request, and we'll do our best to get to it.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I'll look forward to your comments and also recipe requests for next time.
Thanks, everyone.